This is the second message on prayer. And we just had a wonderful reading of a prayer from King David. I just want to highlight the first two verses where he acknowledges that I love the Lord, for he heard my voice, he heard my cry for mercy. Because he turned his ear to me, I will call on him as long as I live. I'm just wanting to give you more encouragement today to strengthen your prayer life, your prayer walk with God. My desire is to help people to know God and to help people to get closer to God. And a key to that is to help people to get stronger in prayer. Prayer is talking to God, listening to God, knowing him. I also want us to think about what kind of prayer really touches the heart of God and moves God to receive the answer and the blessing that it seeks. And those who have gone through revivals and wonderful moves of God often refer to this type of prayer as prevailing prayer. Prevailing prayer is answered prayer. And there are certain keys that we need to get to that sort of like a breakthrough stage. And just to encourage us to get that breakthrough. So today I want to just give some more advice from the Bible to encourage and to teach us to go into a deeper level of prayer. And I know so many of us go through times and stages where we have to acknowledge my prayer is here when it should be here. So, Lord God, just help me to take this journey, this step, to become stronger in prayer. So I'm going to give 4 keys for effective prayer. Number 1 is be clear about what you want to pray for. The reason I say that, because so often if we don't actually have a goal, we don't have a target, we'll just pray for whatever floats into our mind at the time. And we won't even think of pressing in to get an answer and seeking God until we have prevails. So I want to give a couple of examples from the Bible of people who they had a focused goal and prevailed in receiving that specific answer. So some of them are so well known and have been spoken from this church probably many times, but let's look at it from that perspective. So the example of Hannah. Yes, she couldn't have children and she was being provoked by another woman, which really irritated her. And she came to them so desperate to have a child that she wept. She wouldn't eat. And this desperation went on year after year. So what was her prayers like in the previous year? We don't have a record of all her prayers. But I'm sure that for many, many times she was probably asking God, are you still hearing me? God, when are you going to answer? And it's in bitterness of soul that we are told that she prayed with tears to the Lord. And she came to a point of, I suppose, a deeper point of surrender, quite a unique point of surrender, where she made a promise to God that if you will look upon my misery and remember me and not forget me, your servant, and if you give me a son, she was quite specific that she wanted a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. So she actually wanted a child that she could dedicate to the Lord in the temple. And to be a priest, you had to be a son under the old covenant. And Hannah kept on praying in her heart. Her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. And the person who was the priest who observed her thought that she's a bit crazy or she's drunk. But in reality, she was deep in prayer. And we then have the promise that the Lord remembered Hannah. How wonderful it is when God specifically remembers you, remembers your request. Remembering speaks to me of something that's happened in the past, but now the time is right. She'd been praying for those years, but now the Lord remembered that prayer because the time was right. And she conceived and gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. So his name comes out of because I asked the Lord for him. So he's